Well, good morning. We are going to start seated today, so you might want to grab yourself a pillow or a blanket or even a block and go ahead and just raise those hips up an inch or two or however much you need. The most comfortable angle would be if your knees were slightly lower than your hips. So if sitting on the floor you find your knees real high, you might want to lift your hips up even higher. And then once we sit, we're really on the edge. So the hips are tilting forward here, and we're able to preserve the curve in the lumbar spine. And then as you settle in, go ahead and tap into the breath, listening to it come in and listening to it go out. We're going to do a little breath exercise here. So I want you to find some sort of counting method, some way to measure the length of the inhale and the length of the exhale. So you might inhale for 3. 1, 2, 3, and then exhale for 3, 2, 1. And inhale 1, 2, 3. Exhale 3, 2, 1. And keep going just like that on your own. Maybe counting in your head, or you can move your lips and count out loud if need be. And then once that starts to feel comfortable and is a rhythm that you can sit with for a little bit, making any adjustments if you need to lengthen, quicken, or slow down the counting pace, that's fine. But once you get to a rhythm that feels sustainable, I want you to add a pause, just a brief hold. So you might inhale for 1, 2, 3, and then hold for a beat. And then exhale 3, 2, 1. Inhale 1, 2, 3. Hold for a beat. And exhale 3, 2, 1. And keep going like that and try and find your rhythm in here. And assuming this is not agitating to your system, if at any point, breath work can be a little agitating. Nothing is harder to do than when you start thinking about it, right? And so it's easy to sort of lose your breath and feel a little off in this breath exercise. So if that's the case, you back off, you take a break, maybe you jump back in, maybe you don't. But if that feels comfortable, adding that 1 beat at the top, we're going to add then another beat at the bottom. So we'll inhale for 1, 2, 3, hold. 3, 2, 1, hold. 1, 2, 3, hold. 3, 2, 1, hold, and keep going. Again, finding your own rhythm, finding a place that is sustainable for you. next round, the last step we're going to do is we're going to add a 2-beat hold at the top. So when you're ready, you will inhale 1, 2, 3, hold, hold, 3, 2, 1, hold, 1, 2, 3, hold, hold, 3, 2, 1, hold. And keep going on your own, finding your own rhythm. Excuse me, sneezes are optional. And again, if any of this starts to, it may pull up feelings of anxiety, it may pull up feelings of lightheadedness. If that is the case, please let this breathing exercise go. It's about mindfulness, it's about connecting with the breath, it's about evening out inhales and exhales. It is not meant to be a strenuous exercise. Two more rounds. When you're all done with that last round, just resume your normal breath. Watching how it feels. Watching it come in and go out. And we'll take about 2 more breaths here. Then when you're ready, all we're going to do is switch the feet. Place the other ankle in front. And sit again. Notice how this feels in your hips. That little bit of change can make a big difference in how it feels in the weight distribution and the comfort. So give it a couple of breaths to just sort of settle in. Make any adjustments you need to, maybe with the height of the seat. And then when you're ready, we're going to go ahead and open our arms out to a T, palms up. Spread the fingers wide. Reach those fingers out to the sides. Now the tendency here is going to be to bring your thumbs way back. Try not to do that. Bring the hands as far forward as you need to just barely see the arms out of the corner of your eye. And then reach long. Inhale, arms up overhead. Same plane. Go ahead and interlace the fingers. Press the palms up towards the ceiling. Release the fingers and bring the hands all the way back down. Inhale, arms all the way back up. Interlace the fingers, other thumb on top, awkward way. Reach the palms up towards the ceiling and lengthen. Go ahead and float the arms back down to shoulder height again, making sure we're not pressing them back. Make sure you can just barely see them out of the corner of the eye, and then turn them palms up. Go ahead and bend the elbows. Place the fingers on the fronts of the shoulders, thumbs on the back. And we're going to draw some circles with those elbows. How big or small the pace of these circles is completely up to you. Change direction. Next time those elbows are pointed out to the side, pause, reach arms up overhead again. Exhale, twist to the right. Bring the right hand down behind, left hand down in front. And press into the fingertips to lift the heart up and around. Turn the gaze down over that back shoulder. Take the gaze up towards the ceiling and around to the front shoulder. Head back to neutral. Inhale, arms all the way back up and switch. Right hand down in front, left hand down behind. Pressing into those fingertips to lift the heart up and around. Gaze goes down over that back shoulder. When you're ready, pick the gaze up towards the ceiling and over to that front shoulder. Head back to neutral. Inhale all the way back up. Right hand comes down to the floor. Left arm stays up alongside the ear. Walk the right hand out till the left hip gets light. Glue that hip back down by pressing into the right hand and lengthen the left side of the body. Soften that right elbow to help get the shoulder out of the ear. One more breath. Inhale all the way back up and switch. Left hand comes down, right arm up alongside the ear. Walk the left hand out until the right hip gets light. Glue it back down and lengthen. Left shoulder out of the ear. A little soft bend in the elbow can help with that. Take one more breath. Inhale all the way back up. Arms reach up overhead. And exhale, forward fold. So your hands may come down to the mat and they may come down right in front of your shins. They may come down a little bit further. Wherever they land, make sure you can soften the elbows, keep the shoulders out of the ears, and keep the chest open. So we're not looking to round the spine here. We're reaching the heart forward. Keeping length in the front body. Feel free to add a little movement here. You can sway from side to side. You can move the head around. You can, of course, stay still. Take one more breath. Inhale all the way back up, arms reach up overhead. Note which ankle you have in front, float the knees. Maybe uncross the feet. Maybe float the feet to knee height. Bring the feet all the way back down, other ankle in front and forward fold. Again, soften the shoulders back, the hands up. Soften the elbows. Free the neck. Take one more breath here. And release. Inhale all the way back up. And exhale, sit. Sitting up nice and tall. This is where we started when we were working on our breath exercises. Notice how you feel. Go ahead and clear your space. We will meet at hands and knees. So heels of the hands will line up under the heads of the shoulders. Creases of the elbows turn towards the front of the room. Index finger is pointed forward, not our middle finger, but our index finger is pointed forward. Knees are lined up under the hips and feet behind the knees. Let's just draw some circles with those hips initially. And those circles can be small, just sort of the rim of the knees, or they might come all the way back towards the heels, towards the wrists. Change direction. You determine the pace, you determine the range of motion. And then we'll meet back in a neutral spine. Go ahead and inhale the heart forward, tailbone lifts, lift the gaze. We're going to pause here for a moment. Push the floor away so the arms are engaged. We're not hanging on the shoulders. We're pushing the floor away, and then you can sway the hips from side to side or move the torso forward and back. You can just move around a little bit in here if you'd like, or you can just stay still. Big breath in. As you exhale, pull the belly button in, round the spine. So tailbone is reaching for the knees, crown of the head for the space between the thumbs. We're going to stay here for a couple of breaths. So again, you are welcome to add any wiggles or movements that might feel good to you. Next, inhale, open the chest back up again. And exhale, round. We'll go back and forth now, inhaling and exhaling between the two movements. And then meet back at a neutral spine. Reach the right leg back behind you, toes curl under on the mat. Press back that right heel. And press it back in a way that feels good. You might feel it just in your calf. Maybe you feel it all the way up into the hip. Lift the gaze, reach the ribs a little bit forward, straighten that knee a little bit more. You might be able to get in a little bit deeper. Then when you're ready, you can rock front to back just on the toes. The movement is in the ankle and in the toes. Next time you rock forward, press firmly into the top of the left foot, float the right leg, just hip height. Option to get light in the left hand and maybe reach that left arm forward. You can leave fingertips on the floor if you'd rather. Take one more breath here. Bring the left hand all the way back down. Step the right foot up outside the right hand. Rock around in that right hip. It can be front to back, it can be circles, whatever feels good to you. Where does your body need some attention today? Reach that right leg back, off to the left, toes curl under on the floor, look over the left shoulder, press the right heel back. Float that right leg back behind you and bring the knee down. Left leg reaches back, toes curl under on the floor, press back that left heel. Now maybe you've already found exactly what you needed. If you need a little bit more, maybe reach the ribs a little bit forward, lift the gaze a little bit, straighten that left knee a little bit more. One more breath. And then we'll go ahead and just rock front to back a few times on those left toes. Next time you rock forward, press firmly into the top of the right foot, float the left leg, just hip height. Don't need to go higher than that, it'll cause a back bend. Get light in the right hand, maybe fingertips stay on the floor, maybe that right hand reaches forward, thumb up. Bring the right hand back down. Bend the left knee. Place the left foot up outside the left hand and go ahead and rock around in that left hip. Reach that left leg back behind you again, off to the right, toes curl under on the floor, over the right shoulder, press back the left heel. Float that left leg back behind you again, bring the knee down. Curl the toes under, and we're gonna sit back on the heels. If you find yourself up on your tippy toes, if the ball mounts of the toes don't come to the floor, grab yourself a blanket or a block or lift those knees high enough that you can get the toes all the way down. And then sit up on those heels. Interlace the fingers and roll the wrists around. All directions. Bring the hands back down to the mat, float the feet, wiggle the toes, roll those ankles around. Maybe pat out the tops of the feet a little bit. And now we're gonna leave the tops of the feet on the floor. We're not having big toes touching and heels out. All 10 toes are pointed straight back. As we sit back on our heels, if this is too much opening for the front of your ankles, you can grab a blanket and elevate your shins a little bit, and then bring the toes down, and that'll soften that opening at the ankles. If it's too much for your knees, place the blanket in between your calves and your thighs, giving a little more space. Once again, we're going to interlace the fingers, awkward thumb on top, and roll the wrists around. Wherever you're at, press all 10 toenails down into the floor and draw the heels towards one another. One more breath. Once again, release. Hands come all the way back down. Float the feet, roll the ankles around, wiggle the toes. Curl the toes under, down on the floor. Walk the hands back to meet your feet. Lift the knees, lift the hips. Forward fold at the back of the mat. Soft in those knees. Couple of times as you inhale, just sort of let the upper body lift, just a smidge. Inhale, kind of lengthen the spine, and exhale, melt it back in. That doesn't have to be a big movement, but the inhale is where we create a little extra length, and the exhale is where we get to release. So just sort of keep that in mind as we hang out down here for another 4, 5, 6 breaths. Shift the weight around, you can wiggle the hips, shake the head, whatever feels good to you. Go ahead and slide the hands up the shins to just below the kneecaps. Keep the knees soft, straighten the elbows. Shoulders move back towards the hips, belly in. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. One more time. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Deep bend in the knees. Inhale all the way up. Arms reach up overhead. Exhale, heart center. We'll take a couple of breaths here in Tadasana. So all 10 toes are pointed forward, knees are soft, lined up over the ankles, not locked back behind us. Tailbone is rooting for the heels, belly is in and up, shoulders back and down. Slight dip to the chin, nice and strong and stable. Yet, especially you can feel it if your eyes are closed, there's probably a little bit of movement happening. Yeah, certainly each time you inhale and exhale. But you might also feel the weight shifting around a little bit on your feet. Well, you may be in your house, in your town, in your state. We're all basically on a giant rock hurtling through space, so a little bit of movement is okay. Take one more breath here. Next inhale, bring arms up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Straight elbows, soft knees. Exhale, fold. Walk yourself out to plank pose. Full expression of plank. Heels of the hands under the heads of the shoulders. Heels of the feet are over the toes. The chest is open. Legs are engaged. Rock forward onto the tippy toes. So now you're in front of the wrists. Bring both knees down. Lift the gauge. Pull the shoulders back and lower slow and controlled all the way down. Your elbows are reaching for the back of the room, not out to the sides. Press firmly into the tops of the feet. Kneecaps are lifted. Elbows back and towards one another. Inhale, lift head, heart, shoulders. Exhale, release. Thumbs are at your lower ribs. Press into the tops of the feet. Inhale, lift. Exhale, release. One more time. Charge up those legs. Inhale, lift, hold. Inhale a little bit more. Exhale, release. Bring your arms to goalposts. Bend the right knee out to the side. Turn the head to the right and rest. Rest through those hips. Rest through those shoulders. Take one more breath here. Back to center. Reach that right leg back behind you again. This time bring your arms down by your sides, palms up. So your thumbs will be into your thighs. Press firmly into the tops of the feet again. Kneecaps are lifted. Pull in the belly. You'll feel the tailbone tilt down towards the heels. That's what we're looking for. Inhale, lift head, heart, shoulders. Don't let that belly release and float the arms. Exhale, release. Give the hips a little wiggle. Charge up those legs again. Really press the tops of the feet into the floor. Pinky toe included. Inhale, lift. Float the arms a little bit higher this time. Exhale, release. Again, give the hips a little wiggle. And last time, charge up the legs. Inhale, lift. Float the arms. Now your big toes should be pointed straight back, not towards one another. Knees are locked. Then maybe you can float the feet, but pull in the belly. One more breath. Exhale, release all the way back down. Bring the arms to goalposts again. Turn your head to the left and bend the left knee out to the side. And rest. Take one more breath here. Release, back down onto your belly. Plant the hands next to the ribs again. Squeeze the elbows in and back. Curl the toes under. Press into the knees so your hips get light. And then we're going to press ourselves up and back to either child's pose, so big toes would touch, knees wide, hips to the heels, or toes are curled under, and we'll press up and back to downward facing dog. Either pose, it's probably our first time here for the day, so feel free to explore. You can wiggle the hips in either pose, you can shake the head, work on shoulders out of the ears. It's all about lengthening the spine. I was talking to someone recently who was saying that down dog just seems impossible, really hurts his legs. He was so focused on keeping his heels down and his knees straight. I had to tell him I've been doing this for probably close to 25 years, and my heels do not touch the floor and my knees are always soft. Take 2 more breaths wherever you're at. Once again, we're going to meet in a forward fold at the back of the mat. So one way or another, you can walk your hands back to meet your feet. Hips are lifted. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward and down. Inhale all the way up. Arms reach up overhead. Right hand grabs the left wrist this time. Take it off to the right. Belly in, ribs in. Look under that left arm. Inhale all the way back up. Switch the grip. Off to the left. Belly in, ribs in. Look under that right arm. Inhale all the way back up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, release. Walk yourself out to plank pose. Left knee comes straight down, so the foot stays where it is. Left knee straight down. It will not be directly under the hip. It'll be a little behind. Step the right foot up in between the hands until the heel is under the knee. Walk yourself up that right leg. And just sort of bring the torso upright for a moment. So you're going to back off the bend in that right knee. We want to work on getting the tailbone down. Right hip back, left hip forward. Pull in the belly. And then we can reach arms up overhead. Watch that your left foot doesn't wander. So press firmly into the top of that left foot as though you were going to push yourself up towards the ceiling. All of that engaged. Then bend that right knee. Watch that those ribs don't pop. Keep them pulled back. Take one more breath. Exhale, release. Right hand to the right thigh. Left hand is going to come to the floor or a block directly under that left shoulder. Turn, look over the right shoulder and reach the right arm up. Maybe bend that right knee a little bit deeper. Bring the hips down a little bit lower. And then you can consider reaching that right arm back and down and maybe catching that left foot. Watch that right foot as you do so. We want to keep the big toe side of the foot pressed into the floor. Don't let the knee fall out. One more breath. Exhale, release. Plank pose. Walk the hands back to meet your feet. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward and down. Inhale all the way up. Arms reach up overhead. Right hand grabs that left wrist again. We're going to shift the weight into the right foot. Step the left tippy toes out to the side. Torso is going to go to the right. And then maybe just at the ankle, we can flex that foot and float the toes. One more breath. Left foot comes down next to the right. Switch the grip. So now left hand is grabbing that right wrist. Shift the weight into that left foot. Right tippy toes step out to the side. The weight doesn't go with them. Take the torso to the left and maybe flex that right ankle, floating the right toes. One more breath. Place the right foot down next to the left. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, release. Walk yourself out to plank pose. Full expression of plank. And then leaving the right foot where it is. The right knee comes straight down. It's behind the right hip. Step the left foot up in between the hands so that the heel is under the knee. Release the top of that right foot to the floor and really ground there as you walk yourself up that left leg. Back off the bend in that knee a little bit. We want to work on bringing right hip back, left hip forward, tailbone down. Reach arms up overhead, maintaining belly and ribs in. And then we can consider bending that left knee a little bit deeper. We're not losing our height, however. We're grounding into the top of that right foot as though we were going to push ourselves up towards the ceiling. I could certainly bend this left knee deeper if I wanted to, but I'd lose all that alignment. I want to keep pulling back with the belly and down with the tailbone. Left hand to the left thigh. Right hand is going to come under the right shoulder. Floor or block. Turn, look over the left shoulder. Reach the left arm up. You are welcome to stay right here. Or if you'd like, maybe bend that left knee a little bit deeper. Losing some of that height. The hips drop down. Left hand reaches back and down. And maybe catch. Ooh, careful of the Charlie horse. Catch that left foot. Again, don't let the left knee fall to the side. Keep pressing into the big toe side of the foot. One more breath. Exhale, release. Plank pose. Rock forward onto those tippy toes. Bring both knees down. Open the chest. Lower slow and controlled. Heels of the hands are down by the waist. Thumbs are at about the lower ribs. Press firmly into the tops of the feet. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, release. Two more. Inhale, lift. Exhale, release. One more time. Inhale, lift, hold. Lift a little bit higher. Exhale, release. Stack one hand on top of the other. Rest your forehead on your hands. Bend the knees and wave the feet from side to side. One more breath here. And release. Press yourself back to either child's pose or down dog. In either pose, remember, we're working on lengthening the spine. After some back bends, you want to bring length back into the spine. And the spine goes all the way to the base of your skull, so feel free to move the head around a little bit. Take 2 more breaths. This time we are going to meet in a forward fold at the top of the mat. So one way or another, you're going to bring the feet up towards your hands. All 10 toes are pointed forward. Knees are soft. Even if the hamstrings have opened up a little bit more, we never want to lock our knees in a forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward and down. Inhale all the way up, arms reach up overhead. Exhale, heart center. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, forward fold. If you have blocks, you may want to grab those now. Highest setting, inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, step your left foot to the back of the mat. Far enough back that you've got right knee over that right ankle and hip in line with knee. The chest is open. Left leg is strong and straight. Once again, we'll rock front to back a few times on that left foot. It's a nice stretch for your left toes, but also indicates if your right knee is going past the big toe, you probably need to lengthen your stance. Next time you rock forward, bring that left knee straight down. Walk yourself up that right leg. Again, belly in, ribs in, right hip back, left hip forward. Arms reach up overhead. And then you can consider bending that right knee. One more breath. Exhale, release, hands come down around. We're going to wiggle that right foot forward a little bit until the heel is about where the toes were. And then roll up on that right heel and extend the right leg. The tendency, if I'm not paying attention, my tendency is to have my big toe come back and my pinky toe move forward. I want to resist that. So press the big toe side of the foot forward and pull back on the pinky toe side. And all the while, we're digging into that heel while pulling back on the hip. So lift the tailbone and open the chest. Then, all of that in place, if you want to melt the heart down a little bit further, go ahead and do so. If you've really got the tilt in that tailbone already taken care of, though, if you've got the hips lifting from underneath, then it might not change things too much to fold. Take one more breath here. If you are folded, lift the heart back up again. And we're just going to rotate the right leg to the right. We're still pressing forward with the big toe and back with the pinky toe. We're just rotating at the hip so the inner thigh starts to roll up towards the ceiling. Pull back on the right hip while grounding into that right heel. One more breath. Bring the toes all the way back up. Bend into that right knee. Set the blocks off to the side. Plant the hands. And step to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward and down. Grab those blocks again. Step your right foot to the back of the mat. Left knee over left ankle, hip in line with knee, right leg strong and straight. And then you can rock front to back a few times on those right toes. Gives you a nice measure of the length you've got going here. If the left knee is going past the big toe, then you want to lengthen the stance. Next time you rock forward, bring that right knee straight down. Push yourself up, belly in, ribs in, tailbone down, arms reach up overhead. And then you can decide if you want to bend that left knee a little bit deeper, never losing your height. Release the hands. I recommend blocks on the highest setting. Wiggle that left foot forward so that the heel ends up about where the toes were. And then we're going to roll up on that left heel. Flexing the foot, and again, the tendency is going to be for kind of the pinky toe to drop down and forward and the big toe to rock back. Resist that. Press the big toe side of the foot forward, pull back on the pinky toe side. Also watch that right hip. I just caught mine wandering off to the right. Try and keep the right hip over the right knee. And then you can play with the tilt of those hips a little bit. See how that feels. Take the tailbone under. What does that do for your hamstring? Lift the tailbone up. What does that do for the hamstring? My guess is you'll find that the tilting up of the tailbone gets a little deeper into that hamstring. Once you get that all set up, then you can decide if you want a forward fold. Just don't lose the lifting of that tailbone. Take one more breath. If you have sunk down and forward folded, you want to bring the torso back up again. Keep the tailbone lifted, and we're going to rotate that left leg to the left. It's a rotation at the hip. Again, watch that your right hip doesn't wander off to the right. We've got those blocks to help us with the balance here a little bit. One more breath. Exhale, release, toes come back up again, plant the foot, bring the hands forward, blocks or no blocks. Step your right foot to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward and down. Inhale all the way up, arms reach up overhead. Right hand is going to grab that left wrist again. This time we're going to shift all the weight into the left foot. Step the right tippy toes out to the side. Take the torso to the right. And then maybe float those right toes. One more breath. Right foot comes down next to the left. Switch the grip in the hands. Left hand on that right wrist. Shift the weight into the right foot. Left tippy toes out to the side. Torso to the left. And maybe float that left foot. You may fall in and out of this. That's fine. One more breath. Left foot down next to the right. Big breath in. And exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, release, plank pose, top of a push-up. Rock forward, knees down, lower slow and controlled all the way to your belly. Press firmly into the tops of the feet. Inhale, cobra. Exhale to either child's pose or downward facing dog. 5 breaths. Slow, deep yoga breaths. One more. Inhaling to plank pose. Drop the right knee straight down. Right foot wanders off to the right. Drop the left heel. Reach the left arm up and alongside the ear. Option to float that left leg, just hip height. One more breath. Exhale, release. Back to plank pose. Left knee drops straight down. Left foot off to the left. Drop the right heel. Reach the right arm up and alongside the ear. Option to float that right foot, just knee height. Or just hip height. One more breath. Exhale, release. Plank pose. Both knees down and wide. Big toes come to touch. Hips to the heels. Pose of the child. Take another 2-3 breaths here. Hopefully your forehead is supported on something. That might be stacked hands. It might be the mat. If it is, leave the forehead down and just turn the head right to left a little bit. Just giving the forehead a little massage. One more breath. Release. We're going to go ahead and meet lying on our backs, knees bent. So however you want to get there. We'll meet with the knees pulled into the chest. You can roll around a little bit on the small of the back if you'd like. Bring the feet all the way back down to the floor, knees bent. Let the soles of the feet come to touch and let the knees fall wide. So now you have a couple of options here. You can take fists and kind of tuck them under the, right where the thighs and the hips meet. Or you can grab your blocks and place them underneath the knees or the thighs on whatever height you need. We'll probably stay here for about a minute, which for some of you is going to feel like, oh shoot, I just got here, and for others it'll feel like the longest minute. Either way, it'll still just be a minute. About halfway through. Slow and with some control, bring those knees all the way back up. Soles of the feet are down on the floor. Open the arms to a T or goalpost. Set the hips off center to the left. Bring the knees in and over to the right. We want to keep that left shoulder grounded. Everything else is up to you. You might want the knees a little bit closer to you. You might want the knees a little bit further away. You might want some weight on the knees. You might want a little lift, a little space in between the knees. Just breathe. Not much more to do than that. About 2 more breaths. Bring the knees all the way back up. Set your hips off center to the right. Bring the knees in and over to the left. I can tell you for certain, and for a long time, my twists are not symmetrical. It's much easier for me to twist my knees to the right than to the left. So if I were practicing on my own, I might hold my twist to the left a little bit longer. In the meantime, I'm going to modify a little bit. I'm going to put a little space between the knees. It's just my hand. Take my fist and place it in between the knees. You can use a block for that, a pillow. Maybe twisting to the left is easier for you and you want to add some weight to that top knee. And again, you can always adjust how deep the knees are in towards the chest. And it will change. It'll evolve. While you're in the pose, it will evolve. And you can evolve with it. Take about 3 more breaths. Go ahead and bring the knees all the way back up. There is anything else your body needs before heading to Shavasana, go ahead and address that. Based on the 60 minutes, we don't have very long for Shavasana today, so I encourage you, if your schedule allows, to stay in Shavasana as long as you can. Eventually, you'll make your way to a symmetrical resting position. That can be seated. It can be lying on your back, knees bent, feet wide, knees falling in on one another. It can be feet thrown up over a chair or the edge of a couch or just over a couple of pillows if you'd like. Or legs can be extended. A little pillow under the head is always a nice touch as well. And breathe. as I stated, if you have the extra time to stay in Shavasana a little while longer, I encourage you to do so. Otherwise, you may want to start wiggling fingers and toes and wrists and ankles and arms and legs. Eventually bending your knees, rolling over to your right side, pausing there for a breath or two. Until you're ready to press yourself up to a comfortable seated position. Eyes closed one more time. Listening to the breath come in and listening to the breath go out. I'm wishing you peace, joy, love, and light. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste.